Hi there, and welcome to the Sunshine Reader Book Club. I am Miss Lisa with the Osceola Library System, and today we're going to be talking about Operation Frog Effect, written by Sarah Lynn Scherger. Now, I really enjoyed reading this book, and I especially liked how the story of Miss Graham's fifth grade classroom unfolded through the journal entries of 8 of her very different students. The book tells how a class project gone wrong has to be corrected by those students, putting their differences aside to work together towards a common goal. It also shows how one small action can create a ripple effect, causing other things to happen. Now, I'm not going to give away any more of the story. You're going to have to read and find out what happens if you haven't already done so. One thing I will tell you is that throughout the story, they tackle some very tough issues, such as friendship and bullying, immigration and poverty, and we are going to explore those themes today, starting with Mr. Jonathan and his author talk with Sarah Lynn Scherger herself. Over to you, Mr. Jonathan.
Hi there, it's Mr. Jonathan with the Osceola Library, and I'm here with Sarah Lynn Scherger, and she is the author of Tip Tap Pop, Are You Still There? How to Live on the Edge, and Mitzvah Pizza, as well as the book we're discussing today, Operation Frog Effect. Hi, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
So I really love this book. I thought from the back cover where it said there were 8 perspectives that this would be a really daunting book and maybe I would get confused on the characters, but it didn't feel that way. I felt like you did a really good job of slowly introducing those characters so that we could remember them and making them at first kind of like they each had their own thing we could identify them with. But I'm wondering, was it confusing to write?
That's a good question. You know, the writing process was interesting with this book. I think I started out with only 5 different characters, and as I went through to write and rewrite and flesh out the storyline and the plot, I added characters. Over time, each character actually became so real to me that I sort of felt like I knew them and it wasn't confusing anymore. But the revision process was complicated because I would revise the whole manuscript and then I would go back and revise each point of view on their own because I wanted to make sure each point of view had their own arc and was consistent and not too repetitive. So that the revision process was a little bit more challenging. I had sort of like notes and I was trying to keep track of all kinds of things, different styles of writing and words the kids might say, reference points, things like that.
Interesting. Did you have a favorite perspective to write in?
It's so hard to pick a favorite. It's like picking a favorite child. I love them all. They're all wonderful in their own way. I really had fun writing Henry because he's funny. And in real life, I am not funny. But when you're writing, you have the benefit of so much time. You can think about what your characters might say. So it was kind of fun to channel him.
Oh, nice. And on that same note, did you have a least favorite perspective to write?
Okay, good question. So I think everyone always expects me to say Kaylee because she's my not so nice character. She's a little bratty, but in some ways it was fun to write her too, to kind of just get in her head and think about what awful thing she was going to say next. So I don't think there was a least favorite, but I do have another one that was really fun for me, which is Blake, and that's the sections of the story that are illustrated, and you can see some of those behind me. Because 1/8 of the story is told through a graphic novel. And that part was hard to write in some ways because I had to make illustration notes for the illustrator. This is an example of a page that's illustrated. So yeah, I think she did an amazing job. I was so impressed with her, but the process is such that the author and the illustrator don't communicate during the production process. So I had to write little notes for her about what I envisioned on each page. And then those notes went to my editor, and then they went to the art director, and then they went to the illustrator, and then she created them. And so it was sort of like that loop. It's a fascinating process, but I really do love seeing how she interpreted my notes.
And I listened to the audiobook as well as read the book, and I felt like after I read the book and I wanted to kind of go back through it and make some notes, I was like, how could you do this as an audiobook with the Blake sections? But like, there was such a good like depth of character there. I almost felt glad that I did the audiobook as well because I felt like I learned more about him. And I know that you worked with a team to do the Blake sections for the audiobook, right?
Yes, that was another really fun experience. I think the parts of this whole process that I've loved the most is the teamwork piece. So having the illustrator, I love that the actors that did the voices on the audiobook, they're amazing. And then being able to work with the producer of the audiobook to create Blake's sections. It was so fun. It really was, because we worked together. I actually submitted a first draft of Blake's sections. Let me backtrack. So when I wrote the book, I made notes for the illustrator, and that's how she made the pictures. When we made the audiobook, I worked backwards and I took the pictures and created a narrative from that. So I kind of essentially rewrote those sections. And the first time I wrote them, I did them in the way I was envisioning it, and I sent them to the producer of the audiobook, and she had some suggestions about how to improve, and I'm so grateful for those because I had been thinking it through differently. If you listen to the audiobook, you can hear that the Blake character is narrating it as if he's drawing it while he's talking, and he actually brought a pencil to the recording studio, which is so cool. So you can hear him sort of shading as he's talking. When I first rewrote these sections, I wrote them sort of more straightforward, but when I rewrote them with the help of the producer, we wrote it as though he was drawing while talking. So I'll add a little shading over here and make this curved, and that kind of narration was really the producer's suggestion. So I think that makes it feel like you're in it with the character.
Yeah, I felt like it was a really special audio recording, like you mentioned with the full cast. It really felt like a movie, and it was a great way of keeping those 8 character perspectives straight. So let me ask, you said that this book was partially inspired by someone that you met when you were younger, right?
Yeah. Yes, my 4th grade teacher was one of those really special teachers that makes you feel like what you have to say matters, that really listens to you. And I hope that every kid who's watching this has had that experience, every adult too. We all need to have that one special teacher who really believes in us. And that was him for me. And I found myself thinking about him like 25 years after I was in his class, and many, many, many years after I was still thinking about this teacher. And so I thought, wow, it would really be cool if I could use some of his inspiration and techniques in a story. So he did kind of inspire it. I might even have a picture. Let me see if I can show you. This is my 4th grade class with Mr. Bling, and I am the little girl in the purple overalls. And yes, I really did wear purple overalls. He was really special. When I wrote the book, I originally wrote it with a male teacher, and we changed it. The editor and I decided to change it and have it be a female teacher because there's so many amazing teachers of all genders out there.
Is your teacher still alive? And if so, does he know about this book?
You know, he's not. It was so sad for me. I reached out to try to connect with him after the book came out, and I learned that he had passed away about 5 years before. But the book found its way into the hands of his children, and they reached out to me, and we connected. So that was really meaningful to me as well.
Oh, I love that. And then you also work with children, right?
Yes, I do. I'm a clinical social worker, and I work within the school setting. So I do mental health services in a variety of different districts in my county, some social emotional learning, push-in support, and I do direct counseling with some kids too. So I kind of feel like I have the best job ever because I get to talk to kids all day.
And this book has a lot about Ms. Graham encouraging the kids to think about how they can change the world. And I'm wondering, in what ways, if you could, would you like to change the world?
Oh, that is a great question. And maybe one I haven't been asked before. Let me think. I think one of the biggest things I would do for the world is add empathy. And that is one thing that I feel most kids naturally have. Empathy is that connection with other people where you can actually feel how they're feeling. And it's different from sympathy, but it's sort of like a deeper feeling. And I think if everyone in the world had more empathy, we would treat each other more kindly. We would make decisions that consider the needs of other people. There would be less fighting, less poverty. I guess if that's one thing I could give the world, it would be more empathy. And I do think children kind of naturally have that. And maybe as we age, we have to try to hold on to that. I also really think that reading cultivates empathy, because when you are reading a book, you step into the head of the characters, you think how they think, you feel how they feel, you experience things that are outside your own reality. And I think the more we can get kids to read and think about those feelings, that's cultivating empathy right there.
I love that. And who would you say are some of your heroes?
Oh, I have lots of heroes. I would say many of my heroes are the teachers that I meet when I'm working in schools doing counseling. They devote themselves to their kids. They try their best to connect, especially these days in this very strange world that we're in. Teachers are working at all hours trying to connect with their students. I also feel that a lot of the heroes I see are the kids I work with. Many of the students that I work with individually have really complicated lives and situations, and I am honestly so inspired by them. I get sort of chills when I think about it. I can talk to a student who's in a very complicated situation, and I feel they are so wise. They have so much insight and knowledge about their experience. And again, if they were in charge of the world, they might make many, many changes to make things function in a better way. So I feel that the kids I work with are heroes. And in fact, there's a wording change that I like to suggest. Sometimes people say at risk for students who need extra support. And I've recently heard another word that I love, and that's at promise, which is the idea that these kids have so much potential and promise, and I see it. And I hope everybody else can see that too.
Oh, I love that. I love that rebranding of that.
Yeah, I can't own it. Somebody else came up with it, but I love it.
On your bio, and then also with some of your children's books, it seems like dance is a big inspiration for you. Would you ever think of incorporating dance into your middle grade writing?
I've never been asked that question, and you did your research. I love dance. In fact, one of my early books was about tap dancing, Tip Tap Pop. See this one right here. I would love to incorporate dance into a middle grade novel, and I haven't actually thought about that for a while. There was a time that I incorporated it into a young adult novel, and then I kind of edited it out because the book had too much text in it. But you're giving me an idea. Maybe I will.
Hey, all right. And then my last question is, what are some of your books that inspire your writing? Or some books that inspire what you write?
Books that I read.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I tend to read realistic fiction, and I often read middle grade or young adult novels because that's what I write. So when I go to the library, that's what I'm checking out, middle grade and young adult realistic fiction. There's one book that's really special to me right now. It's called Ephraim Divided. I don't know if you've heard of it. It just came out this year. It's amazing. I would love to see that in every classroom. It's about a little boy named Ephraim who's living, I think, in Southern California. And his parents are undocumented. And I don't want to give too much away, but there's a challenge, and his mom is not with them for a period of time. So that is a great, great read. And I think it's a great book for cultivating empathy. It also is so beautifully written, and you can see how the author embraces his culture and introduces it for other people to see. I also, let me think, there's so many. I loved Front Desk, and that's a new book too. I'm sure you probably read that one.
I've not read it yet. It's on my to-be-read pile. It sounds so good by the description.
It's so good. It's so, so good. Let's see, what else? A Good Kind of Trouble. That's also an amazing middle grade read. So there's so many. I could go on forever. But and the other one I would say is Wonder. I really was inspired by Wonder because, especially as a school counselor, mental health provider, I was seeing how the teachers were using it in their classroom. So they would read the story out loud, have the kids discuss, do all kinds of interactive activities with it. And I love it when teachers do that because they're bringing that social emotional learning into the literature, into the classroom, making it very real. And I think it's such a great way to, foster both reading, but also that social emotional learning, which we all need, and empathy.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much for making time for us. And I hope that you get to watch the rest of the program and see what your book inspired here in Osceola County.
I would love to. Thank you so much for having me. These are my little froggy eyes.
Oh, cute. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Hi, guys. Thank you for joining me today. And we are going to be doing origami frogs. Now, to do an origami frog, you're going to need paper, scissors, and markers. If you have origami paper that's already in a square, you can use that as well. But I'm going to show you how to fold a regular piece of paper and use it as origami paper. Okay, so come on closer, camera. We are going to take our paper and we're going to fold the top to the side and make a triangle. And we're going to cut off this piece here. And when we get finished, we're going to have a square. And almost all origami is made with starting with a square. Now the frog is one that's going to be a little bit different. We're actually going to make ourselves a rectangle out of it. You can use the square, but if you do and you go to fold it, it gets really, really thick and really, really hard to fold. So we're going to take this paper and we're going to fold it in half again. So from top to bottom. And then we're going to cut this in half, and we're going to have two rectangles, which means you're going to be able to make two origami frogs. So we're going to cut this in half. And again, if you want to use the whole square, you can, but the frog ends up being very thick and very hard to fold toward the end. So we're just going to use a rectangle. And this one we'll use for another time. Now you're going to take your rectangle and you're going to fold this corner over to this side, like this. Okay. And you're going to open that back up. You're going to do the opposite with this corner. You're going to take it over and fold the top to the side again. And we're making our lines that are going to guide us to make our frog. All right, so you should have an X on the top part. Now we're going to turn it upside down and do the same thing on the other side. So we're going to fold it, crease it, open it, take this one, fold the top to the other side, and fold it and crease it. Now the creases are important. You want to make those nice and crisp. So you want to really make sure that you can see them. So now we have an X on the top, an X on the bottom. Then we're going to flip the paper over, just like that. Now we're going to take this top to the middle. And it's going to fold right in half where the middle of that X was. And again, make your crease nice and sharp and open it back up, turn it around, and do the same thing here. Take this to the middle. And crease it very well. Okay. Now we're going to flip it back over and we're going to push right in the middle of that first X. Then we're going to push in the middle of this X, and it should pop up a little bit. Now this is where it gets a little complicated, so I'm going to go nice and slow so you can see it. I'm going to take this side and this crease, and I'm going to put them together, and I'm going to put that down, and now I'm going to smoosh that. We're going to turn it. We're going to do the same thing again. This crease will touch this crease, and then you'll smush it. Kind of goes down on its own too, and smush it again. Now that is the hardest fold out of everything today, so the rest of it's going to be pretty easy. Oh, I'm sorry. There we go. Now we're going to turn it, and this time we are going to take, oh, let me rephrase that. You didn't have to turn it, I'm sorry. Okay, now you're going to take this corner, this flap here, and you're going to bring it up here. And this is what they call a valley fold, but it's basically you're just folding it over. We're going to take this corner up here, just like this. And again, important to crease it. Okay, so it looks like a square, triangle, triangle. Now we're going to turn it, because anything we do to one side, we're going to do to the other. So now we got our flap again. We're going to take it from here to the top. And again, that's called a valley fold. We're going to crease it. Now we're going to go from here to the top again and crease. And both this side and this side still look exactly the same. Now this is where they're going to change, they're almost where they're going to change, almost. This is where we're going to make the arms and the legs. You're going to take this flap and we're going to fold it where this side lines up with this side. Okay, and you're going to squish it. You should have a little piece hanging off there. That's going to be one of the legs. We're going to do the same thing to the other side. We're going to take this side and match it to this side. Okay, so now we have two of the feet. And this kind of looks like, I'm going to turn it around for you, reminds me of a samurai hat. Doesn't that look like a samurai hat? Now we're going to do the same thing to the other end. Take your flap, the middle side right here is going to fold over here, and it's going to leave a little bit of it hanging out for us. That will be another foot. Now we're going to take this side and line it up with this side, which will make the last foot. Now our frog has 1, 2, 3, 4 of its feet. Now we're going to take this and we're going to flip it over. So its belly goes on the bottom there. Now we're going to take, you've got 2 feet up front, 2 feet in back. We're going to take this and fold it to the middle. And it's really not going to let you fold it any further anyway. It's gonna make you stop. You're not going to have much of a choice. Okay. Now we're going to take this side and bring it over to the middle. And you'll be able to, you can see the little line that goes up and down through the middle. You're just going to line up the side with that and smush it down. And again, anything we did to this side, we're going to do to this side. We're going to fold that over. Now it's got a nice little pointy nose. And we're going to take it to the middle. And you're almost done. Now you got your frog, but he's flat. So now we have to make him where he's going to bounce for us. So this right here is the middle of the bottom of your frog. You're going to fold that over, and that's your middle. And when you do that, it will line up your hands and feet. So now all the 2 front legs and the 2 back legs are lined up. All right, now this is where it's going to get a little tricky. We're going to take this and fold it to this side here. And it's not the bottom flap, just this one right here. We're going to fold it up in half, push it down so you can see it. Now that's the bottom of the frog, so we're going to flip him over. All right, now you have an origami frog, and it helps once you pick him up, if you take his little arms and pull him out a little bit, that way he can sit up all on his own. Now what I've done, I got online and I found poisonous frogs, and I colored my frogs to match poison frogs that I found on the internet. So all these frogs here look like frogs that are, except for this little guy here. He's my special one, little one. But the rest of them are all look like frogs that are on the internet. And the last thing you have to do after you color them is to make them jump. You're going to take your finger, you're going to swipe it. He fell upside down. And see how far you can make your frog jump. There he goes. Let's see if this one could go further. Oh, he's going to go upside down. See if third time's a charm for him. But that's how you make your frog jump.
Like I said before, they tackle some really tough issues in this story. And one of them is homelessness. And we're going to go over to Miss Crystal for more on that topic.
Hi guys, it's Miss Crystal and we're doing Operation Frog Effect. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about homelessness, but more about how our emotions are tied to it, what our feelings are about it, and what we can do about those feelings with it. So what I'd like to first do is I want to read you a little story. I'm going to read it in first person of someone who met a homeless person in Washington, D.C., but it's actually, this person is from Florida, and it kind of connects me with this person and makes me feel more emotional towards this person. And I want you to think about it as I read it and see how it makes you feel, and then we'll go from there when we're done. Joseph came to DC looking for work and found homelessness. It was early one morning, and I was scoping for homeless people in DuPont Circle to see if I could help in some way. A man passed by, kind of nodded his head and at me, and he smiled. He turned away from his path and approached. It didn't take long before we were off to a cafe for coffee. Although I suspected he might be homeless, I wasn't sure. He was dressed not quite warm enough for the cool weather here in DC. And 15 minutes into our conversation, my new friend Joseph admitted he was homeless. He had come to DC looking for work. When he didn't get a job, his money quickly ran out, and after about 3 months, he was broke. He had been sleeping on the sidewalk near Washington Circle, and I let Joseph know about my work with homeless people and asked how I could help him. His first request was for a place to take a shower. I took him home, let him shower, and I did his laundry. Afterward, I tried to help him find a job, but with no luck. My church helps me to help homeless folks. I told them about Joseph's situation and his desire to head back to Florida. Now, within a few days, it took a little while, but we all came together and Joseph had a bus ticket and was headed home. Now, I don't know what happened to Joseph once he got back to Florida, but with this little brief true story about this gentleman, how did it make you feel? What words came to mind when you read about it? When you think about the homeless that you see around you, what do you think? Now take those thoughts, and this is something that you can do in your classroom, or if you're at home, you can take a piece of paper and set it there in front of you. And I would like for you guys to start naming out words or phrases or even sentences of how you feel about homeless. I know the word homeless could probably be on there, but when you think of a homeless person, what do you think? I think of poor. I think of a weak. I think maybe cold. There's resourceful, assistance, community, of course, newspapers, help, a burden, dreaming, underinsured. They don't have insurance. Dumpster. A lot of them sleep behind the dumpster. Dusty, dirty, but there are several words here that myself and some of my coworkers came up with to create this sort of word cloud for that. And that's what I'd like for you to do. You don't have to do it right now, but this is something that you can do in your classroom with your teacher or at home with your family, and come up with a bunch of words and see what emotions hit you when you talk about those that are homeless, or even just homelessness in itself. How does it make you feel? Now, once you come up with this story, but look at those words and then think about how you can put them together and make either a sentence or even just a very short poem about what homeless makes you feel, or even just using those words, creating a poem about what homeless, how it makes you feel, or what you could do to fix those that are homeless in your community. And that's what we did here. I found a few pictures about homelessness. I'll show you that there. Do you see those? Yeah. Because homeless doesn't just affect men or women, it actually affects families sometimes, or children. It affects pets and loved ones with that. So it's just not, sometimes it's the invisible that you don't see or just don't look at with it. But some of my coworkers came together and helped me create some poems. Avis was wonderful, so thank you, Miss Avis. But she created, and we created some of these cute little poems just to help us remind ourselves about the importance of always thinking about what we could do, and to somehow remember those who might need some help. So the first one is, please help me. I'm homeless, no place to live, begging for money. Can you please give? Another one was, tired and weak. I need to rest my head, sleeping on newspapers, dreaming for bed. Raggedy clothes, all tattered and torn. I sleep behind trash cans, shopping carts, and more. Dirty and smelly, living on the street, looking in the dumpster for something to eat. Asking for money, crying all day, wishing I had some place to stay. And the last one here really tugged at my heart. Going to school, kids stop and stare, using the restroom to wash my face and hair. Now, this is just to evoke some emotion, and for you just to guys start brainstorming and thinking about what we in our communities can do about the many homeless that are in our area. And Operation Frog Effect, I know, makes us think about what can we do that affects the next thing down. So if we do something good today, what would it do? Even if it's just a smile, a thank you, or how are you, it's always going to make somebody feel good. And maybe they'll do something nice for someone next too. So I hope you try out my word cloud. I hope you try some cool poetry. If you write some wonderful ones, or even not so wonderful, share them with us. We would love to see what you create. And thank you for joining me for Homeless Poetry with Operation Frog Effect. And I'll see you next time.
Hi. In the book Operation Frog Effect, Mrs. Graham has her students, her class, keeping journals. Now, there are many different ways to keep a journal. One of the students writes in her journal like she's writing a letter to her friend who she's named her journal Hope. Another one of the students makes his look like a comic book. He draws pictures of everything. And yet still another one of the students writes in his like it's a movie script. Like I said, there's a lot of different ways to keep a journal. And one of the ways I'm going to talk a little bit today about is making a bullet journal. Now, I have this little notebook, and I thought, okay, I'll use this notebook to make my journal. So I decided that when I made my journal, Oh Look a Frog, I would give a title page. This is my journal, and I'm going to start keeping this next year, beginning in January. I left one page blank in case I want to keep any notes, or if I want to, if something important happens, I want to write it here as well as document it in my journal. That way I can have a index, so to speak, or a table of contents. Then I went online and I found a printable calendar for the whole year, which I sized to fit in my journal, and I just printed it out and cut it and glued it. And in this one here are just all the holidays and observances that might be special in the coming year. And then I made a space to make my goals, or maybe this is where I'll write my New Year's resolutions. Like, oh, I thought I would make a resolution to be more organized. So I'm going to write that down. That way I can keep track of myself. Okay, there, I wrote it down. Be more organized. And then I started with my actual journal. I found a printable, downloadable PDF for a calendar for 2021, which again I sized and printed out. So I printed out for January. Down here's a place to keep some notes. And maybe if I write really small, I can put on here that I need to do things by certain days. And then I started with my pages. Now I counted there's 24 spaces on this page. So for I have 12 on the top and 12 on the bottom. I drew a line with a Sharpie marker, and this is January 1, January 2. Now you'll notice I have a little like fireworks and a sticker here. Well, of course, this one's Happy New Year. But the reason I did that, I didn't think whenever I started doing this that the Sharpie was going to bleed through. So when I turned the page to label 3 and 4, oh, there was 1 and 2. So I just put some stickers over them, some stickers that I had. I haven't done that yet. And then I continued my numbering then in ink. So I drew my lines and numbered for the days. And I did that all the way and to January 31, and then I've got February. And again, I did that all the way through to March, exactly the same. And then I came to the end of March, and now I have April. So all I did, like I said, was I took my calendar and I put some glue on it to glue it down. Come on, glue, come on out. I don't need a whole lot, just enough to keep it down on the edges, really. Glue it down. Got to keep my shirt sleeves out of it too. And I also counted up how many lines from the bottom, so that even though there's 1, 2, 3, 4 lines on the calendar, then I've got a couple lines underneath so that it's kind of in the same place as all of them. And then I just continued with my numbering on this page. And like I said, I just took a Sharpie marker and I drew my lines just like this, just straight across. And again, the nice thing is, you know, like I said, it bleeds through. So when you turn the page, it's already there, and I can just continue on with that. And then I will continue numbering the days for April. And I'll do this the whole way. I think I might be able to fit the whole year in here. But if I can't fit the whole year in here, it's okay, because I can get another one of these and just continue on. Maybe I will actually keep track of myself and use this a lot more than what I have used other planners, because now I'm going to be making this my own and writing notes to myself, as well as keeping tracks of things that I've done or that I need to do. And that is a very quick way to make a bullet journal. Oh, like I said, you can decorate your pages with stickers too. I forgot I had these sitting here. You can put your stickers on. I might go ahead and use a Dr. Seuss hat for in March for Dr. Seuss's birthday. Whatever you want to decorate your pages, you can draw pictures, however you want to do it. And again, like I said, there is my version of bullet journal. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Susan. What a great idea to create a bullet journal. I might have to make one of those now. And I would like to thank all of you for joining us for the Sunshine Readers Book Club. I am Miss Lisa with the Osceola Library System. And if you want to read Operation Frog Effect, written by Sarah Lynn Sugar, come check this book out at the library. Or you can visit Cloud Library if you have an Osceola Library card, and you can read it digitally as an ebook. Make sure you come back in 2 weeks, because we are going to discuss Planet Earth is Blue, written by Nicole Panteliakis. See you next time. Bye-bye.